ball. There you go. Okay, it being 5:30 on Monday, June 2nd, I will call this meeting of the Shelburne Select Board to order. We have a full quorum with Andrew Baker and Rodney McBride in attendance, as well as Terry. First item for us this evening would be the acceptance of the minutes of May 19th. I've read them. I saw the adjustments that you had asked for from the previous minutes. Andrew, everything looked good there. Any further comments on the updated version?
No, they look fine to me.
Okay. And Rodney wasn't there, so you would need to abstain anyway. So I won't ask you if you've read them, but if you have, great. But we'll have a motion to accept the minutes of May 19th.
So moved.
And I will second. It's been moved and seconded. We'll put the matter to a vote. If there's no further discussion? Hearing none. Andrew?
Aye.
And I am aye. And Rodney?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstained.
There you go. Okay.
Excuse me.
Motion passes 2-0-1.
Did you want to also approve the executive mission minutes that you put together?
Yes,
Okay.
I have those ready. These are the executive session meeting minutes from May 30th, held at the Shelburne Town Hall. All of us were in attendance. Have you had time to review them and prepared to vote, or do you need any changes?
I'm all set. They look good to me.
Okay,
I'm
Rod,
set.
I would move to accept.
Second.
been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of the May 30th executive session of Shelburne Select Board. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Okay, we still have some time before our first appointment at 6:45.
5:45.
I'm sorry, 5:45.
Mhm.
Told you my brain could be in a different time zone. Do you have a liaison report for us tonight, Andrew?
Yes, I do. Nothing from the Pratt or the Council of Governments, but I did speak with Jeff, and he's going to be road patching this week. He has managed, thanks to his prior connection to the town of Heath, he has borrowed their hot box. They have a nice piece of equipment that allows them to keep the patching tar hot, so that you don't have to rush around or put out cold or cooling patch onto the ground that makes for a less effective bond. So working with a hot box gives you a better end result. So they'll be doing that this week. Steve is going to be out for 2 weeks this month, using up vacation. Ray was out last week, but will be around. And Jeff is hoping to schedule the road test with our two candidates this coming Friday at 4. And I said I would be there if that does in fact happen. So he's gonna follow up and let me know if they accept those time slots of 4 and 4:30. Otherwise, we're kind of he's preparing with the current Chapter 90 money that we have that has not been allocated to the truck purchase. Of our 280, I think we allocated 150 to the truck purchase, and there's 130 left that he's planning to do a full depth reclamation and subdrain work on Carpenter Road, which will kind of tie together the two roads we did last year, part of Fisk Mill and Brook Road. It's all up in that same neighborhood. Um, and and then we're sort of waiting to see. There are some potential for other other highway funding coming through in the budget that would allow us to do other roads and other projects this summer if it comes through. There's fair share money, and I think Maura Healy has put in additional highway money into her budget, but we have to see how that all shakes out with the three branches. So more on that to come.
Good. Just to clarify, Jeff is contacting the two for the equipment demo himself as opposed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific. Great. We have time for my liaison report as well. Mohawk Trail Regional School District Personnel Negotiations Subcommittee. For those who don't know, I serve on that subcommittee as the representative to the 8 towns in the district. We've met very regularly since last November for our team strategy sessions and actual negotiation sessions. Last Tuesday, May 20th, our subcommittee and the paraprofessionals negotiation committee for the district came to agreement on updates to various articles of the contract and wages for the next 3-year contract period. It now goes to Unit B union for a vote of their membership. So progress finally made. Franklin Regional Transit Authority Advisory Board, you recall the regularly scheduled annual meeting didn't get a quorum, was rescheduled for May 29th, and the annual meeting was held, which saw the election of new officers, Finance and Audit Committee members. Various authorizations were also voted, as well as the annual budget. The board unanimously approved the next fiscal year budget at $5,734,000. Free fixed route fares have been in place since analysis showed it cost substantially more to collect the fares than to actually just not collect them at all. A unanimous vote made those permanent. It had been done a year at a time to see how it would work, and it still proved that the cost of collecting, managing, etc., was actually putting them in the hole compared to what was actually collected. So it's a cost savings measure to make it free. Wouldn't it be great if everything worked that way? Then demand response fares have been funded by grant money, and they were voted to continue to be paid for by that grant through next October. The next meeting for the Transit Authority Advisory Board will be September 18th. Police Department and Police Services Advisory Committee. The last 2 meeting dates were canceled due to the lack of quorum being available. We have a meeting set for this Wednesday evening. That's June 4th. Hopefully we'll have a quorum that evening. The next area of focus will be finding a qualified candidate to fill the newly town meeting approved and funded position of administrative assistant to the chief. And that would be one item we'll certainly be discussing on Wednesday. And lastly, Pioneer Valley Veteran Services Advisory Board. The next meeting of that group is not until October 7th. And that's all I have. Any questions on that? Hearing none. We are still a bit early for our first appointment. Town hall generator installation, the propane hook.
Before you go there, Rick, I just wanted to check and see if Terry had any updates in the town hall area.
Good. Sorry, I should have done that. Good catch.
Most of mine are included in the agenda this evening, but thank you for asking.
Okay, good. And just for you, Rick and Rodney, sort of town hall related, but upstairs, the Memorial Hall project is the hall is clear of chairs. The street is clear of dumpsters, and that phase of the project is done. We did manage to either sell or give away at least 150 of the 400 chairs and raised a little over $2,000 after paying the dismantling expenses.
Wow.
So
Nice.
I just turned that in to to Angel today. And just a question for you, Terry. Do we have yet any update from Steve Greenwald about Renaissance's schedule or not?
No, I just dropped the contracts off. Renaissance signed the contracts, the town has signed them. I dropped them off with Donna last week, Wednesday. But I can follow up with their office. The last I knew, it was going to be mid-June that they were going to start.
Oh, not till mid-June. Okay, I didn't know if we even had any
I
tentative
think,
plan, but we don't have a written schedule from them yet.
no, we should probably try to schedule with Joe Matty a pre-construction kind of meeting to pin down. I know when you last spoke with Renaissance, they were waiting for the tin, I believe, for the ceiling.
Okay.
But I don't
Yeah,
know whether you or
if you could let me know what they're saying, and yeah, I'd be glad to come, and I'm sure Jim Kessler would too, to come to a pre-construction meeting just to have us all be on the same page and stuff.
Okay, I will include Joe Matty as well, because I
Yeah,
believe he'll be overseeing the various contractors.
definitely. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Super. Actually, not really a liaison report, but maybe an update, Andrew, from you. The um, ARPA funds that were assigned for the Pocket Park. If that's going to happen,
Yes, I did.
of months to get it done before the ground freezes because of
Understood. Yeah, no, I'm just finally getting back to that. So I did meet with Dick Hillman about a month ago to look at it again, and he did say that he was willing and available if called upon. So he's been twice into the Pocket Park and done good work there for us. So he would be a great candidate if we can get him back there. So we have sort of looked at it and talked it through, and I just told him that I would kind of update the landscaping specs and get them to Terry so she could get 3 quotes and get it moving. But so it's not too far away. It just needs me to get off my butt and do it. So.
okay. It would include plantings, right?
Well, not from the excavation side, but yes, the components left to do are to kind of reshape the contours of the land, to fit with the plan that we reviewed with Kay Cafasso, and that would include sort of creating little pathways, putting the Jersey barriers in the right places, and once that's done, laying down the crushed stone that would create accessible pathways into the site. And then once that's done, we would hire a gardening company, to do the planting work. And with funding permitting, also purchase the benches, the Ashfield stone benches to go on top of the concrete. So those are the three components left to do of the project.
Okay. Good. Well, my understanding, I'm sure it's been mentioned to you as well, that money has to actually be spent by December 30th, or we
Yeah,
have to give
no,
it back.
I'm well aware.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I will get moving on that.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Um, we really don't have time to jump ahead. We're 1 minute early. Terry, this is a hearing. Is it a public hearing? Did we advertise it?
It is a public hearing. The utility sends out, or they send to me a packet to send out to abutters. I've just reached out to the gentleman because he's not on, wondering if he will be attending.
Okay.
If by chance they don't show, Eversource has yet another poll hearing scheduled for our June 16th meeting. But it's really unfortunate if no one shows, because I've sent notifications out to all the abutters that would be affected by this.
Hmm. Well, it's
I don't know if the board feels comfortable just approving it, given that it's one pole on Smead Hill Road, if you've reviewed the materials.
well,
It's basically just replacing a pole that exists there, right?
no, it's
No, it's
one.
adding a pole.
Yep. I
Okay.
think there's a schematic in the packet.
Yeah, I saw the plan. I didn't know if it was a replacement though.
No, it's a new pole for a reliability upgrade.
Okay.
It would allow the energy feed to go left or right, as opposed to the one directional feed that it has currently, as I understand it from the information that was sent. So I did actually drive up there and take a peek. It's innocuous. I don't see any issues with it myself, and having reviewed the material. Um, we're it's 5:46 and I don't see any public that has showed up to speak to it anyway. So if we don't have somebody log on in the next few minutes, I have no problem with putting this one to bed and approving the addition of that one new poll for those purposes outlined. Rodney, your thoughts?
I have no issues with it. I
Andrew?
haven't viewed it, but I do know the area, and like you say, I don't
Uh,
see where it'd be any problem.
yeah,
Andrew?
I'm happy to take a vote on it. I would just recommend we take a few more of the old business items and give people another 5 minutes or so to make themselves present before we vote.
Fair enough. Let's jump. We'll pause the public hearing for a moment. We'll jump ahead to the item A on old business and see if anyone does show for the public hearing, any of the abutters that were notified. Um, as you know, we have the new generator installed behind Town Hall that will service the first floor of Town Hall in the event of power outages for keeping the computers, the lights, and more importantly, the telephones working, which everything goes down with no power at Town Hall. So that's been in. I think you have the review that I sent around. I did meet with three different companies. Um, the third being Osterman, which, as I explained in the overview, turns out no one owns that tank. It doesn't belong to Memorial Hall Association. It is a feeder tank owned and maintained and responsible for the care thereof of Osterman. Osterman was bought by Superior Plus. So it's Osterman slash Superior Plus. And since it's their tank and the lines drop underground from the tank, come up on the building. One services the location of the former restaurant next to Mokamaya in the other building, and one feed goes up to the second floor for Memorial Hall Association. And Osterman put in the option of making this a very simple, cost-effective project for simply teeing off of one of those two existing feeds and putting a third meter. So there's currently 3 meters, one to Memorial Hall, one to the other building, and this would be a third one to our generator. It's actually the best way around financially for the town, because when the tank needs propane, they fill it, but nobody gets billed. The three metered services only get billed for propane used. Ours is going to be maybe 10 gallons a year, so that's a good thing. As it turns on to test itself, I forget what it does. It every 2 weeks, is it? Maybe something like that. So have you guys had time to review it? Any thoughts on it?
I'm okay with
I'm
hooking
okay
it
with
up
it.
to the town for the town's use. It's what, $1,600 or something like that for the equipment.
1,165.
Oh, okay.
That includes the all the piping, the connections, and materials in 5 hours, up to 5 hours of labor. So they said that should be more than enough.
Yeah.
All the
I do
others,
know that the Memorial Hall is concerned about the gas metering down there. They got some outrageous bill from Osterman last year and are still scratching their heads about it. So I think they will have to do some close monitoring of the metering there to make sure that it's working properly.
we did have one awful long cold winter too, though.
Yeah, but we were not using the hall very much. That's the thing, because we didn't have
Mhm.
a lot of events going on up there. But
Well, they certainly can explore other options, or maybe ask for a test of the meter or whatever to make themselves more comfortable. But it turns out that Osterman's given us this proposal for $1,165 to connect and put the generator into service. So do we have a motion to accept that proposal?
so move.
So moved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Rod?
Aye.
Andrew?
I
And I am aye as well. Motion passes 3-0-0. Highway laborer position update.
don't think we have anything more to report other than that we held an executive committee meeting and that we're having a road test.
Yes, an equipment demonstration to show their proficiency with the various equipment. We had two really good candidates come, which
Yeah.
is really nice. Transfer station mirror tags, anything on that?
I just wanted to report that Angel and I have issued over 260 mirror tags. I still need the board to weigh in on Shelburne businesses whose owners do not reside in Shelburne who wish to have a pass. The transfer to station policy is for residential trash only because businesses tend to generate more trash, recycling. I've had maybe 3 Buckland residents who have approached me about using the transfer station for their businesses.
The businesses are on the Shelburne side, but they live
Yes,
in Buckland. Well,
yes.
the policy has been that it's been for residential use. A good example would be a supermarket, which goes through cardboard and trash like crazy. And if we start accepting it for residents or non-residents, but for these people who are requesting tags for businesses in Shelburne, it would appear to open it up to every business that we've never allowed to do it before. So my take is we stick by the current policy, but any thoughts from Rod or Andrew?
My
I'm in
feelings are
agreement.
your feelings.
I'm in agreement with you, Rick. I think that was the exact conversation that I had with our transfer station attendant who was uncomfortable about having to say no to some of these business owners making requests about this, and I shared the same story with him that if we allow one person to do that, we would have to open it up to all commercial use, and I don't think that we're in that business.
Apparently, these 3 people have been allowed to use it because the location is more convenient than the Bucklands transfer station site. But I do agree with you all that the only way for this tag system to work is to keep it to the residents of Shelburne.
Yep. Good. So do we need a vote or just authorize you to pass that information on?
No, no vote needed. I just needed acknowledgement from the board that we were going to stay on course with the policy.
Yeah.
That's a unanimous decision for sure.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can do one more before our 6 o'clock, and I still don't see any people for the first public hearing. Planning Board Administrative Assistant position.
At our last select board meeting, the board agreed to post the position internally. I also advertised externally on the website. Still, the only applicant was serving as the Community Preservation Committee's assistant, and she's very much interested in the position. And she's been providing support for the planning board at no pay since Faye stepped down. And so far, she's got a real good handle on what needs to be done. So I would recommend her, and I know the planning board has recommended her.
Right, we received that last time. Do we have a motion to that effect or any discussion?
Yeah, I'll move that we hire Susan Durkee to be the part-time planning board what is it? Administrative assistant? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, put the matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Terrific. Okay, it's 5:56. Everybody comfortable with taking a vote to approve the Eversource application to add one pole for Smead Hill Road?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. And we'll only have one next meeting for Eversource. All right. I see we have our 6 o'clock appointment. It is not a hearing, so we can start a few minutes early. Tom has joined us. Tom, the Emergency Management Director. Last week, you sent us all the PowerPoint piece, and I'm sure we've all reviewed it. And if you have an opening overview you'd like to give us and tell us what the asks for this evening may be, let's have at it.
Okay, do you want these slides up or what I gave you was sufficient for you?
I don't need to see the slides again myself, but if others do, you can.
No, I'm fine.
I reviewed them again today myself for a second time, and I'm good. So
Okay, what was that, Rod? You all set?
I'm all set, yes.
Okay.
You're welcome to go through it, Tom, if you want. I just have one question on the last piece of what you presented with the unrenovated part of the hall. The rest of it I'm fine with in terms of the making the existing space more efficient and adding the metal shelving and stuff. The part I had a question about was really what that unrenovated space is going to be used for. What is it going to be used for?
Well, that is still up in the air as far as I know. If it's available, we can use it for storage space for whoever. I mean, not just myself or for emergency management, but it's a good spot for storage after some much needed renovation work, which John Walsh has been after and been discussing recently as well.
he's actually, I think, pursuing that before
He is. I
Yes.
believe he's seeking a grant, or I'm not sure exactly what he's doing with that, but
Well, that was where I was a little confused. Maybe I didn't read it correctly, but it looked to me like renovating that back end was going to be the most expensive part of your proposal. And the rest of it was more just purchasing metal shelving to make the other space more efficient.
well, initially I did look into the renovation of that space, but since I learned that John was taking care of that, I've dropped that piece off of any of my plan, And just all that remains on my plan as far as that area alone is just adding shelving if, in fact, we're going to use it as storage space.
You mean if you're going to use it for storage space?
Right.
Uh,
Okay, because I thought your plan was to make the space where the business association and the clerk are using space to kind of clean that up and make it more efficient, give the clerk a secure gate and all that. And then were you gonna also use that space where the clerk and business association are, or were you just proposing to clean it up for them?
I was proposing cleaning it up for everybody, for the whole area down there. Um, Obviously, some of the space reserved for emergency management, but I just, for whatever reason, I just like to put I have good organizational skills, let's put it that way. And for very little money, I can improve the storage, all that storage space down there and increase it tremendously. I just like to go with it and go
Because
for it.
I guess my preference until a sort of pressing need is identified for that back end space, let John proceed with the renovation work that he's pursuing and wait and see what makes the most sense for the use of that space. I know you're an empire builder, Tom, and you would gladly take that over if you wanted to expand into it, but I'd prefer to see that remain kind of unclaimed until we know what the needs are and and potential uses are of that space.
Okay, that's fine. The only space I was looking for emergency management at this point was probably half of what the business association has, or whoever owns
Yeah,
that.
that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
so the town meeting did in fact approve and fund the repairs to the tab room, that rear end building you're talking about, and John has signed on. John, where are we at that project? You're muted, sir.
I've been inquiring from a couple different contractors. Since the money is not available to July 1st, I haven't really pursued much yet. Uh, Just as for your information, right now, both the highway department as well as the art bank have been using that to store equipment on a temporary basis. I did speak when the windows are in process of being installed in the basement and the attic. And I spoke with the contractor, and it's not a very complicated retrofit to figure it out. It's a question of whether or not to remove the old asphalt siding, put on um, water vapor, that type stuff, and fix the rotted sills. So whatever you all decide is fine. I think, again, I've seen highway department 2x6s and boards in there that were stored temporarily. Other than that, I did tell the art bank that they could leave their stuff that they had spread out over other areas in there until they could move it back over to their spot in Buckland. And I'm sure they will get going with that sometime in the next month or so.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
art
it's pretty
garden.
full. It's pretty full back there at the moment. But I agree with Andrew that there's no need to commit the use of that area at this point. I think that the business association area, we call it, we don't know really if that's true or not, but it's where all the Christmas decorations are that go on the street. And right now, I think that's the only thing in that area.
That's
Pretty
correct.
much. And there's a bunch of miscellaneous and a little bit of trash.
And you already have through your other funding source, shelving to reorganize that area and make space for yourself there as well. Is that correct?
To start with, the funding I had, well, doesn't isn't sufficient to buy all the shelving for that area, but it's a start. Yes.
Okay. So I don't have any problem with you pursuing that because right now it's just discombobulated would be gracious.
Right.
So any reorganization of that area, I think, makes sense with the shelving that you have been able to procure.
Okay.
In that one area, it does make sense for you to go ahead and pursue that. John, would you have an issue with that?
No, that's fine. I think the only issue in speaking with the gentleman that has been coordinating putting out the Christmas lights is it seems like no one now is uh, taking responsibility for who's the contact person with that group.
I think
Uh,
in the past that has been Nick Danilo,
yes, I have
and
spoke. Sorry,
and
and
and Whit Sanford, I think, have been the two people most
yes,
involved in that.
I have spoken with Nick. He wasn't overly enthusiastic about helping out, but he wasn't objecting to putting things in better order. Faye, is it not? It's not Faye. Who was the other person?
Whit Sanford.
Whit said that she's no longer involved with that group,
Okay.
and she didn't know who was going to be the contact person.
Okay. Well, I know that Kate Chadwick has kind of, I'm not sure if she's getting paid for it, but she has been a kind of mover and shaker in terms of town holiday events and helping to revive this working group that's working on the downtown grant project. Whether she has any bandwidth or interest in being a liaison to the holiday lights, I have no idea, but she would be,
I run into her once in a while in town, so if I see her, I'll ask her.
yeah. One question for you, John. It sounded like uh, you were asking for the board's input on the back end renovations in terms of the sills and stuff, or do you have that
No,
all
no,
in hand?
I
Or
was just mentioning it. That's part of the discussion process of deciding what to actually do with the outside part of the building.
Okay.
Do you need our vote on that in some way or not?
Nope, not really.
Okay.
No, it's really just more of here's the issues. There's some rot in the sills that those have to replace, vinyl siding, that type stuff. So,
Yep.
um, other than that, no. I mean, if unless you're a construction expert and know whether or not it's worth doing insulated vinyl compared to just doing straight vinyl with tar paper. I mean, I'm always open for those type of inputs, but my plan was just to leave it in place, but this one particular contractor thought it would be better actually to actually dispose of it. And it's just asphalt siding, so it wouldn't be very difficult to
Yeah.
to remove it.
Well, you have a
Okay.
specific amount of money to work with that was approved at town meeting.
Correct.
So try to make it go as far as possible. But I think although you only see it the few times you drive around back, it's definitely an eyesore and might have issues that are contributing to the rotting of the sills as well. So I know you're going to close off the second floor door that goes to nowhere. Um,
Correct.
and so have at it. And I know you'll do a good job like you've done on everything else.
And just so you know, that money also included going through the electrical systems and
Yes.
trying to identify what circuit breakers belong where. There are some sections of the building that have very old Romex that probably at some point need to be replaced. If we have enough left of that money, that was part of my proposal, is that some of that money go
Yep.
into looking at the electrical. There's outlets outside and doing the windows up in the attic. I found 4 wires hanging outside the upper attic window that were just cut and not and just hanging in space.
Wow.
So we just taped them off for now, but that'll have to be identified too.
Yeah. Well, I know the project's in good hands. Terry?
I was going to suggest that that might be a neat project for the electrical department at the tech school. When
Yes.
the town first went computerized, they came in and did all of our initial wiring.
I have spoken with Bob Wilson about, yeah, Doc Wilson. He suggested that actually the construction might also be part of what the tech school might be interested in. His concern is that they just did the uh, the pavilion in town, and that there might be other towns that they may want to help out first before they help that. But he's on the board of directors for Franklin Tech, so he was going to reach out to them and see if that was something they'd be interested in helping. And we mentioned electrical and plumbing.
Okay.
Well, John, my only thought there is if you have the patience to do a project with the tech school and are willing to hang in for potentially a lot longer than you had budgeted, then that would be a good project to pursue. But I thought we had a very excellent result in the pavilion project, but it took about 3 times longer than we had initially budgeted.
Yeah, I have already committed to following through with both the fixing the back of the building regardless of my status as the director of the gym. And I will follow through with that no matter how long it takes.
Okay. Well, if you've got the bandwidth to do a tech school project, they're good folks and they did good work for us that way. It just took a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that's what Bob was saying though, is that there are other towns that haven't taken advantage of their services, and he was going to broach that to the committee.
Yeah.
Good.
John, one last question I have is, does that curving driveway that goes around the back of the cowl, does that drain well, or is there water collecting where the rot is happening?
It's the water running down that driveway that's splashing up against those sideboards. That's probably the cause of it. When it gets to the bottom, there's a very big drain hole there. As long as that remains unplugged, it doesn't flood towards the door.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me, I've never seen any evidence of water in there. Excuse me. Never saw any evidence of water actually leaking into the room.
Okay.
Good. Well, thank you for what you're doing there, John. Appreciate it so much.
All right.
Let's get back to the proposal from Tom, or at least the slides of potential proposals. Let's look at the town clerk space. I think that's another one that we can put on the back burner. We don't need that space to be developed at this point. I think the project on the other side, you don't even have enough money to finish as yet. So let's stay focused on the consolidation and shelving on the other side. I did get some feedback on this from the clerk space. Moving the scissor gate back. I don't. He felt he didn't need any shelves. Everything that he has in there, he needs to be where it is. It's not small stuff that can be put on a shelf. So he indicated maybe one shelf on the Maple Street side might be prudent at some point, but right now there isn't an issue, and he's comfortable with what he's got, other than the fact that he has concern about the mold or the potential for mold, because everything that he brings out to the gymnasium for voting, etc., has to be cleaned aggressively with a little musty, damp smell that's already happening. Every time I've gone down there, the mini split is open and running. I would assume that's set on dehumidifier, dehumidification, or a dry setting as opposed to heating or cooling. Is that the case, John?
It's actually more efficient to keep it in the cooling mode.
Huh.
I've been watching the humidity levels. When they jump above 45 or 60%, then I go down and put the dry on. But it has to be done individually. Unfortunately, we couldn't afford the Cadillac. So that is correct, but I've never seen the humidity level jump above 60% down there. I have
Okay.
monitors all over the building.
Okay.
And so I'm not smelling mold, and I'm pretty sensitive to it. So
Okay.
I'm not sure where that may have come from. It might be true. In the heating mode, the humidity level stays extremely low because the air can hold more moisture, obviously. cooling mode is the time. I just switched it over about 2 weeks ago, and I'm monitoring it as we're going along.
Okay, thank you for that. So, Tom, my question on the town clerk space then is, if we get to this at some point, and I don't think we need to now, unless somebody has other thoughts on that, is the scissor gate that's there. When you and I met there and moved those giant boxes of cots out of the way so that Joe could get his equipment out, he explained that the doorway, which is in the middle of that span, collapses to the left. So moving it back 4 feet to expose more of the left side is irrelevant because we can't put anything on the left side. Anything that could be stored would be on the right-hand side, and you'd be gaining 4 feet there where we stacked those cots previously. But it looks like that's something that for the time being we don't need to pursue either. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
If I may,
Yes, sir.
that fence or the gate went in, and I didn't know it was going in. I would have preferred that it would have been to the inside of the mini split that's on the wall. Because now to get in there, somebody has to have the key that Joe has put on the lock. And I have one, he's given me one, but it would be a lot easier to, if we send somebody in just to clean the filters and stuff, or to switch the building over. Now I'm just sticking my hand through the gate to do it. But if you do consider moving it, I would prefer if you could move it just to the inside of what the Joe space would be, as opposed to where it is now.
On the far side of the mini split head.
Yes,
Okay. How far would that push it back ballpark? Because Joe said anything over 4 feet, he would not be a happy camper.
it's about 36 inches.
Oh, so if we moved it 4 feet, it would be on the other side of that?
Yes, it's right up against it now.
Okay. Well, maybe moving that makes sense, but I don't know how we would pay for it or why we would need to deal with it at this point, I guess.
I think the highway garage, highway crew put it in, so it's only a couple of screws in the walls and a hole in the floor for the pins to sit into.
Well, as I say, Joe's comfortable with anything up to 4 feet, moving it back. And if the highway department, do we want to instruct the highway department to go ahead and move that back so that John and others doing service of that mini split head have access to that area? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. You agree, Rod?
I do agree, yes.
Okay, so I don't think we need to vote on that. Terry, would you contact Jeff or would the liaison, Andrew, would you like to do it or?
Yeah, I'm happy to contact him. I'm just going to put it on a to-do list, a rainy day to-do
Yep.
list, because they're pretty
Yep.
busy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Make sure he doesn't move it more than 4 feet. Just enough to get it on the other side of that mini split head.
I'd like to get to the better or the what I'm considering the bigger part of my proposal, and that is whether or not we want to designate Cow Gym as the premier shelter for the town.
Well, I noticed your wording. You just mentioned premier. I think primary is the word you used on this piece. And you recall I was at that meeting with you for the rec. Yeah, you used primary town shelter. And you and I were at that meeting with the RecCom, and they kind of were unhappy with the word primary, concerned that that it would be first on the list, as opposed to you need a cooling center. There were three other places at least that they mentioned that would be senior center and others that should be the primary or first focus use, not immediately say, okay, we need a cooling center and let's open it.
Yeah.
I guess their concern, I think their concern was how regularly used this would be. So they took the word primary out of their vote and said that they did approve the use of the cowl as a heating or warming and cooling center. And
But I'm not so sure that was deliberate. From what I understood from my first meeting, that they were all for that, and they had a couple of concerns, yes, but in the end, they were pretty much all in favor of using that, of seeing that as the town primary shelter. I think the wording of the motion the night you were there was just the um how do I want to say it was not an intentional deletion of the word primary. I think it was just forgotten to be used.
well, it happened almost instantly after the discussion of the pushback that you got of we don't want to not use the other places that have been used forever,
But but
and
the
have that be the first line of defense.
but the other places are not capable of being a shelter, only a cooling and they just and then
I
they're
think
small anyway.
Right.
The town
my
still
sense,
this town still needs to designate a shelter within the town limits.
No, I appreciate that. And I know
Okay.
they support that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I think that the point that Rick is making is a good one in the sense that if we had a string of very hot days and we were concerned about people who might not have air conditioning and who were, vulnerable health-wise, that the senior center would probably be a more appropriate starting point for that project and only use the Cal Gym as kind of an overflow if the numbers got so large that the senior center couldn't handle it.
I agree.
I think
We
we
have the
want to
senior center,
start
we have
with,
the library as well. Yeah.
yeah, I think we want to start with smaller and more efficient spaces and only use the gym if we really need a space that big, because cranking up the mini splits for, 6 people or something is a
Oh, I
pretty,
agree wholeheartedly.
you know,
I'm talking about primary shelter.
yeah,
Yeah, the cooling and center spaces would be, you're right. You would want to use only what's needed, and the senior center is perfect. The Arms Library is another one.
yeah,
The Trinity Church has opened up as a cooling heating center as well. Those smaller places would be more advantageous, more energy efficient, so on and so forth. What I'm asking for is the designation of the Kyle Gym as a shelter, also as a cooling heating center if needed, but only if needed.
right. Yeah, I'm with you on that description.
Okay.
Um,
do we hear a motion to that effect?
I would move that we designate the Cal Gym as an emergency shelter and backup heating and cooling center to be used as needed.
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
If I could just point out, if you do decide to do that, the issue is going to be in the gymnasium itself and having seating and tables because there's only a half a dozen or a dozen chairs now in the Cowell gym, and they're the metal type. So you should think more about covering the floor because there's talk about putting more money into fixing the floor because the floor is in pretty rough shape now.
Mhm.
So that should be something long term, thinking about providing additional equipment that you're going to need to put people in there.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think this motion is simply to establish it as the chosen emergency use, and that will then open the door for a lot more things to do, because right now it can't be used for that because we don't have a backup generator to run the heater
Right.
cooling if we needed it. So I think this is step one of a whole bunch more steps over
Sure.
a very long period of time to get all this done and
Exactly.
so any other discussion?
It's going to take planning. It's going to take resources, especially financial resources. It's just going to take a while to put it all together. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight, not even within a year,
Yep.
at all. It a good plan, systematically executed. There we go.
Well, your overview slides made a whole lot of sense. So, any other discussion?
No, I'm all set.
Hearing none, put the matter to a vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
I am I. Motion passes 3-0-0.
Rick,
Thanks, everybody.
I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure, Tom, before you go, are you all set with what we have kind of given you to understand about the basement space reorganization project?
That's next on my
Oh,
my
we're still there.
yeah,
Okay.
we're still on that.
Okay.
We got the first thing done because it
Okay.
didn't make sense to do this part if we didn't do the first part, right?
Right.
Right.
All right. So now that
Right.
we've designated that as our choice for the town emergency center to be developed, back to the business space. I think we're in consensus that it makes sense to uh, get rid of this basically floor storage, get some shelving in there, get their stuff organized. Sounds like they've left that to you, Tom,
And that's fine. I'm happy
and
to do it.
and then carve out your space and organize it
Yeah.
within the confines of that room that's next to the clerk's area. Okay, so
Okay.
we need a motion to authorize Tom to do that.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize emergency management director to organize and install shelving in what we're calling the business association space in the basement of Cowell Gym.
Rick, my understanding that Tom felt like he could at least begin that project with the resources he has now and maybe come back to us and report in when you've used up those resources, and you can tell us where you are at that point.
With photos.
All right.
Great. Any
Good.
further
I'm
discussion?
comfortable with that. And we can see if there's more that needs to be done once you've gotten to that point.
Great. Any other discussion? Hearing none, matter to a vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
and I am I. Motion passes 3-0-0. Good to go.
Thank you very, very much.
More than
Town
welcome.
appreciates it.
Thank you, Tom.
Right. Have a good evening.
Take care.
All right, we're down to new business. We have some liquor license requests. Uh, First one is a one-day liquor license at Apex Orchard for two different brewing companies, the Four Phantoms and the Brick and Feather. I've reviewed all their paperwork. I assume you have. Their certificates in order. Anything else we need to know about these, Terry?
No, I'm waiting on a certificate of insurance from Four Phantom, but everything else is in order.
I would move that we grant the 3 one-day permits pending receipt of the insurance statement from the Four Phantoms.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, matter to vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
I am I. Motion passes 3-0-0.
I think isn't this their second or third year doing this?
Yes.
We haven't had any issues in the past with them, so
No.
One.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Next item on new business, vote to terminate senior center staff effective July 1st. That sounds ominous, doesn't it? But it's clearly explained in your packet information as for anyone, actually at the Memorial Day services at Arms Cemetery, several people came up to me, maybe half of which I knew, the other half I had no clue who they were. Everybody just telling me things they saw at our meetings. No one shows up at our meetings, but apparently there's a lot of people that watch them later. So for that purpose, I'll explain that the senior center was formerly a town department, actually is a town department until June 30th of this year, at which point July 1st, they will become a district entity separate. So people working there now are town employees. We need to terminate them so that the district can hire them. Uh, that makes sense. Did I get that right, Terry?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion, any comments before we act on that?
No, I would move that we terminate or lay off the senior center staff effective July 1st, 2025.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, matter to a vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
and I am aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Well, I just want to say I'm impressed that they have pulled all the pieces together and seem to be ready to fly on their own.
Yeah. The timeline, you'll recall they gave us an itinerary timeline about a year ago and provided us updates along the way, and a whole lot of work, and a lot of it fell to the director, and she did great. So uh, it's a heck of a project, but looks
Yeah.
like the finish line is 27 days away, ballparkish. Okay. Larry Flackus, request to appoint two candidates. We actually have three. Um, this is to the open space. Larry is chairman of the open space committee, and the open space committee has met and voted to fill open slots. You have their information in your packets. It's Helen Payne Watt, Erica Lumen, and Ted Sicker. You have the background, the letters, the information. They were voted unanimously at the open space, all three of them to request us to appoint them to their committee for their vacant slots, which is pretty impressive. As you know, it's tough to get people to serve. And they managed to get three really good candidates, it appears. Any comments or discussion?
No, I would agree that they all look like strong and enthusiastic candidates, and I would move that we accept the recommendation of the Open Space Committee and appoint Ted Sicker and um, tell me again their names.
Helen Payne Watt,
Helen Payne Watt and
Erica Lumen.
Erica Lumen to the Open Space Committee.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
I am aye. Motion passes 3-0. Reorganization of the board. This is an annual project for us, and interestingly, after the unfortunate passing of two former select board members, which kicked in completion of term people stepping in, kind of messed up the normal flow of the cycle here. The longstanding process, of course, has been that the first year of a 3-year term person serve as clerk. The second term year serve as vice chair, and the third year term select board member as chair. And I would think that would make sense going forward for the next year. Any discussion, comments, other thoughts?
Where does that leave us, Rick, if we do what you're suggesting?
It would put it back in the order that we've or the select board has always used, so that the new person works their way up through, gets comfortable until their third year as chair. So that would mean I would continue as chair, you, Andrew, would continue as vice chair, and Rod would be named clerk in place of well, actually, you would move to, I'm sorry, you would move to vice chair from clerk, which you're currently serving as.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Rod,
That's fine with me.
do we need to vote these or just agree that they're what we wish?
I think we do need to vote them. I'll move that we accept that rotation as described.
Great.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
I am I. Motion passes 3-0. Department liaisons. Again, we use the term liaison kind of loose a little bit sometimes, but there are 3 official liaisons left. There were 4 liaisons being our direct relationship with a town department. That is highway. Current liaison is Andrew. Police, I am currently liaison. And town office was Tricia. As Andrew and I know, as does Terry, the newest person coming in on the board, Rod, obviously you. This is an absolutely best place to start a liaison role, as it's the nerve center, it's the hub, and you get to interact with the clerk, collector, treasurer, and town admin. And someone, when my first year said, that's where you'll learn the most. And I said, I'm in. And holy moly, that's true.
Okay.
So I would think that would be the perfect spot for you to be the liaison at town hall, or town office, rather. I'm sorry. Andrew, you still want to stay on highway?
I'm happy to stay on the highway one more year. I think I would certainly be willing to hand it off to Rod or to you at after this year. I think that Jeff has certainly seasoned his way into leadership in the highway department, and I think is doing an excellent job. But I can certainly continue for another year. And yeah, no, I mean, I think that yes, that's all I have to say.
Okay. And I do enjoy my service with the police department and the Police Services Advisory Committee, which is made up of representatives of both towns. And I think being in both of those together makes a whole lot of sense. And I would love to stay with those unless anyone else has other thoughts. No? So we'll take a vote to name fiscal year 26 department liaison, Andrew Baker to highway, myself to police, and Rod to the town office.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
and I am I. Motion passes 3-0. All right. Committee representation. These are ones that we do that are regional in nature. They include Franklin County Building Inspection Program. Let's start with that one. This is one that I would think would make total sense for Rod to take over. The background, what Rod does for or has been doing for a living. The current person serving in that position has been great. It's not a knock on that in any fashion, but it's designed to be the select board's representative. It should be somebody from the select board to be that representative, in my opinion. I'm finishing my second year. I've never heard a report on anything in that department. So I think if we could talk Rod into being the representative to that, we might hear more about what's going on.
Which department are we talking about?
The Franklin County Building Inspection
Oh,
Program.
building inspection. Okay.
Yep. Rod,
And who has been our rep there before?
Chuck Washer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never heard anything about it.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking, Rod, this is got to be right up your alley. Is that something
It
willing to
probably
take?
is. It
You-
probably is.
Willing to take that on?
I am, yes.
Okay. The second one is the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. Currently serving is Andrew. I'm totally happy if you're willing to keep that. Andrew, Rod,
I'm
any thoughts?
happy. I'm happy to continue on that.
Okay. You good
I
with
have
that?
no disagreements.
Okay. Uh, Franklin County Solid Waste Management District. Terry has very nicely been doing that for us.
Happy to give it up if anyone wants it.
Who's going to jump to the front?
I'll keep doing it if no one wants it.
Sounds like
Sounds like Terry's it.
you're there. Okay. All right, Franklin Regional Transit Authority. I have been doing that. Um, it's it's intensive. Like I said, over $5.5 million budget that we just put through, and that's about the roughest part of it. It takes some getting used to, and I'm there, so I'm willing to continue in that for the last year of my term and continue serving on the Franklin Regional Transit Authority. Unless somebody else is hot to try it, I'd be happy to relinquish. Okay. Franklin Regional Planning Board. This one we have, they're set up to have a representative from the Select Board and a representative from the Planning Board. The Actually, I went to one. I served on the planning board 5.5 years. Rod has served on the planning board. I knew immediately it didn't make any sense to have a select board member there. So John Wheeler agreed to be the select board's representative to the Franklin Regional Planning Board. And planning board member Paul Hollings is the planning board's rep. And I have no reason to change that unless someone else has other thoughts.
As long as they're willing, I'm happy to have it
Mhm.
stay.
I'll confirm
I-
with them.
Perfect. Pratt Building Committee, currently serving Andrew Baker.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody else wants to take a crack at it, I'm happy to stand aside on that. I don't feel like I've moved the needle very far there, but um, if no one else wants to do it, I'm happy to continue. It's just sort of there's an ongoing sort of muddy understanding among all three parties about what who owns the building and who should be doing what with the expenses and capital versus maintenance and lease versus non-lease. There's just a lot of stuff that people need to sit down and wade through, and
Mhm.
maybe I don't know if we'll make progress this year or not, but we'll see.
Well, I think after what happened last year with the budgetary situation, that it will happen this year. They have already reached out to me, and I put them on hold until we reorganized. They want to get started and meet with select board representation and finance committee
They
representation.
being who?
The library
Oh, okay.
directors.
Okay. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that they've reached out on that. I mean, the other piece of that, which I can wait and bring up later, but is kind of a future agenda item, question is I think that following on what Patricia was saying as her, parting shots as she was leaving the board, while I don't think any of us accepted her recommendation that we merge with the town of Buckland, I think that the next best thing would be to schedule some joint meetings with the select board and finance committees of the two towns to really just have a little chance to have a sharing of views and ideas about all six of the things that we share together. And it's something we have not done ever really in a very structured way. And I think now that we're um, regionalizing more, that it's becoming more needed that we have that kind of communication.
I agree 100%, and I will definitely be responding back to them. They do have a new chairperson, very energetic. I attended one of their meetings. She's new to it, but really took well, handled it properly, and has reached out, as I said. So I'd love to see that happen with finance select board representatives of both towns and them start getting to some common mindset about the split of the budget. And I think it's definitely well overdue and something that will help us come budget time next year, I think, for a little more smooth uh, process.
Yeah, yeah,
So if you're willing to stay on the Pratt committee, Andrew.
sure. I'm happy to do that.
And the last one is the Veteran Service Center. I've been doing that, and I have no problem continuing. Rod, I didn't know if that's something you might want to try. It's a quarterly meeting held in Greenfield. Um, I think I mentioned in my liaison that September 19th is the next one. They meet at the Veteran Service Center on Main Street in Greenfield.
Okay.
If you'd like to do that, great. If you
Yeah,
think you
I'd
might
be
be
willing to.
terrific. And that's all of the committee representations. We will do the boards, commissions, and committees at a future meeting, but they're still all in play until July 1st for the renewal process. So that'll come up later. This is simply a reorganization of this board's duties. So that's everything.
One thing I would add to that, it's never really been on our list because it's an independent body, but I serve on the sewer commission um, as well, and we are in the process of writing a job description and hiring a new administrator since Maureen resigned after 49 years of service. So we're going to be meeting soon to sort of do our year-end closeout and see if we can get somebody new on board with that.
So
Just
that's,
letting you know.
yeah. And is that a elected position, Andrew?
I can't remember.
No, you'll be reappointed in July with all
Okay.
the other committees and commissions.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. All right, so that completes our list. A couple of changes there. If everybody's good with the list we wrote out, let's have a motion to make that effective immediately.
So moved.
I'm sorry, effective July 1st.
July 1st. Okay. Move the appointments as discussed for July 1st.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, matter to a vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
and I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Okay. Any other business? We do have one that came in that I think we could take care of this evening under this category. It was shared with you as well by me, I believe. This was also from the chairman of the Open Space Committee. The chair, Larry Flaccus, is moving out of town, and he has effective immediately, which was dated May 28th, his resignation from his position as Shelburne representative to the Woodlands Partnership of Northwestern Mass Board. He's been on that forever, done a great job. The Open Space Committee discussed at their last meeting his replacement in that role from their committee. They voted unanimously to ask us to appoint Helen Payne Watt to fill that position. I don't know if that is a position that comes up with the rest in July, Terry.
No,
I didn't
no,
think,
I would just notify them that Larry has resigned and this is the new appointee.
okay. As I said, the Open Space Committee voted unanimously to recommend her. This is Helen Payne Watt. And we had to hold this one to this spot because it was only 2 items ago that we voted her to the Open Space Committee. So now she could go ahead and represent the town of Shelburne from the Open Space Committee on that.
Wait, oh, on the Woodland Partnership.
Right.
Oh, I thought you were saying the chair of the open space, because I
No.
think it's their prerogative to elect their own chair.
Yes, they're going to do that at their next meeting.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So this is simply the chair of the open space resigning only from his position as the Shelburne representative to the Woodland Partnership of Northwestern Mass Board, and a potential replacement as approved by his current board, the Open Space Committee. So do we want to take a vote to appoint Helen Payne Watt to fill that position?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Rod?
Aye.
Andrew?
I
And I am aye. Motion passes 300. Any other business that has come that I haven't heard about? Hearing none. Our next meeting is June 16th. We're on to correspondence. Emergency medical services leaders regarding the future of EMS services. You recall at one of my fairly recent liaison reports, I mentioned attending that session that they called, and all 8 towns were represented by select board members and EMS and ambulance folks. And the bottom line, and as I said in my report, was it's not financially sustainable the way it is. And they want to look at the possibility of a regionalization of EMS services. To do that, they would like to pursue a grant. Apparently, it's been done quite regularly in Massachusetts because everybody's experiencing the same financial pressures and lack of volunteers to become EMS and EMTs. And they've asked us specifically, as you saw in the packet communication, they've asked for our cooperation and engagement as a town entity to agree to join in and participate in this important and innovative study. Basically, I think they're asking us for a nod of the head of support for them to go ahead and pursue this, to find out if it's feasible, and that would take a grant. So I think it's more or less giving them the confidence to go ahead and seek a grant, knowing they have the town of Shelburne's support to pursue it. Other towns, Coleraine, Holly, Charlemont, they're all doing the same thing. Any questions?
happy to support it. The only question I have, Rick, I don't know if you've been in conversation with John Taylor or anybody else about this, but I thought I remembered we talked about it maybe a year or so ago, and there was some talk about engaging with the Highland Ambulance Service, which does a regional service in the Hampshire Hill towns. I don't know if they have any bandwidth or interest in further regionalizing northward or not.
That actually was broached during that meeting. I think it was like a month ago. The head of the Coleraine, Gary Ponce, EMS service, is also involved with that one. And so there's already a base of knowledge of how they did it, how they got forward. Whether there's interest in them coming further north is a whole different story. But I think ducks in a row. It's start with a grant request to do a study to find out, would this work? Would it then be sustainable? And would the various towns participate? Or how many towns would need to participate to make it viable? So it's at the very early stages. So, but good memory, good memory. So should we take a vote for that to reply to the communication that we do support the project, and they're seeking of a grant to do the study?
Sure,
moved.
I'll move that we support the project and as the town of Shelburne and endorse their grant.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, put the matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
I. Passes 3-0. Terry, would you please send them a reply to that effect?
Sure.
Public comment. We have no public. I think we're good to go. A motion to adjourn.
So
I
moved.
make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, I'll second that one.
Moved and seconded. Being digital, we have to do a roll call vote. I keep getting reminded. So we'll put the matter to a vote. Rod
Aye.
and Andrew.
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion to adjourn passes 3-0 at 6:56. A palindrome. I love them.
Mhm.
All right. Well, everybody have a good evening and good work tonight. I appreciate it all.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.